This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I think we're working now. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who I haven't met, my name's Nicola, Nicola Billins. Oh, now I can't press this thing. Nicola Billins from Alquemie. So I've been with Alquemie about 4 years. I've been working in luxury travel marketing for about 11 years now. I've traveled the entire globe, so I've been to all 7 continents. And so what I'm going to take you through today, and when I get excited about things, it's coming with a depth of experience, and I have, seen lots of stuff around the world, and I'm really passionate about what we have to offer here in Australia. I really think that we've got some world-class experiences that your clients will be very impressed with. Don't know why that's not working. Okay, so if you don't know much about Alquemie, we're a Traveller Made member. We're also, we've been around with Pure for maybe 11 years now. I hosted Pure Pursuits Australia earlier this year, taking some of the global travel leaders around part of Australia. So we've been around since 2001, and it's all about that bespoke itinerary creation. So don't look at us as just a booking service for accommodation, because really where we add value is understanding your clients and then really crafting an itinerary around their passions. So the more you tell us about your clients, the more bespoke it can be. An example of that would be, you can book any old Sydney day tour, but when you come to Alquemie, we'll select a guide that we know will suit your client based on what their passions are, and they'll show them a side of Sydney that really gets to the heart of what they want to know, in their area of interest. So normally pre-COVID, we would be traveling all around Australia, testing everything out. So we go and meet the guides and we experience what they do. We know which rooms to put your clients in all the different hotels. Really, it's really about getting to know the heartbeat of Australia and just understanding it. So that's what we can put into an itinerary. So there's always going to be a good reason that we recommend something. So our difference is our creativity. We really do try to create experiences that you won't find on the internet that are really kind of ungoogleable. And so today I'm going to take you through just kind of a sample itinerary. I'll sort of talk a little bit more about some other things, really for a first timer, but also for someone who's been here before, and we can just show them different sides to places they might have already been. So we'll be starting in Sydney, heading into Uluru, up to what we call the top end, and then over here, tropical far north Queensland. The ideal time to come is between about April and October. Really, the reason for this is this top end here, it's monsoonal, and so it kind of shuts down in what we call the wet season, which is roughly November to March, give or take, just depends on the season. It gets really hot and stifling there at the time, and a lot of the roads become impassable because of all the water. Crocodiles can go anywhere they want, and I mean it's obviously not like that everywhere, but in some of the main tourist areas you'll find that in the national parks. So it's not the ideal time to come. That said, if you wanted to take that element out of the itinerary, then we can kind of do it any time of year. Recommend 14 to 21 days. Again, just depends on your client's time frame and how sort of in-depth they would like their itinerary. So we'll start in Sydney. So just so you know, I was living in Sydney for 13 years, so I know Sydney very well. I now just live outside of Sydney, so you can always ask me questions about places a little bit further afield. So what I wanted to show you here is this is what Sydney looks like. I mean, you would have seen pictures of the Harbour Bridge and the Opera House, but you can just see how much water there is all around. You've got, this is the main city centre. You've got a little bit of a northern city centre here, and then you've got this coastline in the top of the picture. But all the way through, we've got this amazing waterway called the Sydney Harbour. And yeah, so lots of harbourside living, lots of places to go and explore by water. And then along the coastline, you can see, you know, these beautiful beaches all the way up and down. And if you look, if you look at this map here on the right, you'll see the area in red is Sydney, but then all around it is pretty much green, and a lot of that is national park. So that's also very great to explore. And then you've got the beaches. So even if you didn't want to go anywhere else in Australia, you just wanted to fly into Sydney, spend a week in Sydney, you can basically have an incredible time getting out in the bush, going to beautiful beaches, and you don't even need to hop in a plane again. And I'll just show you a couple of little things here to note. I mentioned the beaches. So Sydney's actually got about 100 beaches. You would have heard of Bondi Beach, which is this one in the bottom right-hand corner here, and possibly Manly Beach, which is to the north of the city. But what you might not have known is that all throughout the harbour are these tiny little coves and swimmable beaches that are just absolutely stunning. So when your clients are coming here, maybe they want a photo of Bondi Beach, but if they'd love, you know, a deserted beach experience, you can actually have that right in the middle of Sydney, you know, about 20 minutes by vessel away from the harbour bridge. So it is amazing. I love going out with my friends on their boats, and we just put on some music and jump off the boat and have a beautiful day eating some prawns. And it's pretty much what locals do here in Sydney. With the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge, we can really, most people coming to Sydney obviously would like to see them and experience them. We can turn those icons into any kind of experience you want, again, based on their passion. So if they're into architecture, we can have them meet up with an architect and really delve into, you know, how either the bridge or the Opera House were built. We can go and look at the archives, go and, you know, see some old photos and really get to understand the nitty-gritty. If they're into how you know, an opera production works, we can take them behind the scenes at the Opera House. We can take them to rehearsals of the ballet or the theatre. We can even get them a role on stage at the Opera House in an actual opera. So about 2 days before the performance, we'd take your client and they'd do a dress rehearsal, they'd get fitted with a costume, they'd learn a few moves, and then the day of the performance, they would turn up at the Opera House at roughly 6 p.m. They'd get escorted backstage, they'd get their makeup done, they'd costume on, they'd have another talk to the director just to run through things again. And then they would have a walk-on role on the Opera House stage. And so they would be in Act 1 or 2. And then after halftime, they would go and join their partner sitting in the audience, and they could watch the rest of the performance. So if you've got clients who want to do something really quite special, there's that option for them. And I haven't done the actual on stage thing, but I've done the sort of behind the scenes, and it's absolutely fascinating to really see what goes on in all the rooms behind, sort of in the background of the Opera House. With the Harbour Bridge, we can do anything you want with that. So we can basically shut down the top half of the bridge, where the bridge climb is, and your clients could have a very private experience. I've done karaoke up the top, but you could do yoga with the sunrise. We could get a special chef up there serving them canapes. So the only thing that you can't do up there is drink alcohol. But otherwise, if you've got the budget, we can make something very exciting happen. And so there's a whole lot more that we can do. Private dining in the back of the Opera House with a private opera performance, you name it. So basically, with a good budget, the world's your oyster, but there's other opportunities that aren't obviously so expensive either. Just something you might not know about is a new Taronga Zoo sleepout. There's a new wildlife hotel there, I guess. So Taronga Zoo is one of our icons, I guess. It's in the most amazing location. So as you're wandering around, seeing all the animals, you can also see the Harbour Bridge and the Opera House in the distance. And now they have this new hotel where not only can you see the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge in the distance, but you can also wake up and you can see the koalas climbing in front of you and kangaroos hopping around. So your inclusions with that are all day at the zoo if you choose, a meal, it's a dinner and breakfast, and a luxury hotel room as well. Personally, I think it's a really great option for people coming to Sydney. I think it's a really nice, a nice thing to do. I mentioned earlier about the all the green and the national parks that sort of are surrounding Sydney. So there's so much to see and explore. If you've got clients who are into nature, there's some absolutely beautiful bushwalks around. You can see these kind of waterfalls. So these are only about 90 minutes away from Sydney. Really good in winter, in our winter. So sort of, well, even now when we've had some big rains and the waterfalls are really you know, bursting with water, they typically would dry up a little bit by January, February, and come back around again. And then you don't even have to go to the Sahara to have some sand dunes. So this is about 3 hours north of Sydney. There's, I think it's about 100 or 200 kilometres, maybe it's only 100 kilometres of sand dunes in this region. And so you can go sandboarding, quad biking. I think there's camels there. So yeah, we can weave in lots of adventure into an easy escape. And then this is up near where I live. So it's essentially, it's another river system, very similar to what you find where Sydney is on Sydney Harbour, except there's very few houses. So you basically, instead of Sydney Harbour where you've got lots of houses everywhere, you have bush and national park. So it's an easy 15-20 minute seaplane from Sydney Harbour up to this area. It's called the Hawkesbury region or Pittwater. And so the seaplanes can pull up at some of the fine dining restaurants that your clients would like. And so they basically fly up, get dropped off, have a beautiful 3-course meal, and then fly back again. So you've got a really nice kind of day tour experience. There are some luxury accommodations in the area as well that have started popping up. So alternatively, we can weave that into an overnight stay in the area, or perhaps we can get a super yacht up there so they could fly up, have lunch, and then they could get collected and stay on the super yacht. So there's all sorts of things we can do up here. There's also a new pearling experience. So this is all about the provenance and knowing where your jewelry comes from, you know, and not just it being a cheap fake or you know, treated in a different, you know, with chemicals. So you can go and learn and see the pearl farms, and they'll shuck a pearl for you, like in front of you, and maybe you get a pearl, maybe you don't. It's a really interesting experience, even if you don't think you're interested in pearls, because I never did. With this experience, you learn all the attention to detail and how they look after and nurture these pearls over several years and get them ready to become a piece of jewelry. And then you learn how they grade all the pearls and turn them into that piece of jewelry. And sometimes, you know, it could take 20 years to find all the perfect pearls to make a string of necklace, a string of pearls necklace. So we can do things like a fashion show with pearls. We could have special jewelry created for your clients. Very, very interesting. It's equally interesting for the men as well as the women, because it does have that farming kind of quality to it. So it gets a bit dirty and manly, but then you also have the fashion and the jewelry side to it as well. So from Sydney, we're going to fly to Uluru, which we call the heart of Australia. And really it is, it's both the sort of the centre, the heart in terms of its location, but also spiritually for us, it's and the Indigenous culture, it really also is the heart of Australia. So it's about a 3.5 hour flight from Sydney. And you land really at this, it's called Uluru is the actual town there, but Uluru, which you would have heard of, I've got a picture here for you there. So Uluru, it's a monolith rock, so it's quite unique. It is just one big rock. You would have seen it in all of our tourism promotions. So the premium accommodation there is called Longitude 131, and you've got about 10 of these kind of luxury safari tents, all with views of Uluru. And really it's all about that, you know, high touch service. You know, it's pretty much as good as it gets with Longitude 131. There's not many properties in Australia that are better than this one. It is a luxury lodge of Australia, if you have heard of that collection. So a stay is all inclusive. You've got some activities that are included as well as the dining and the alcohol. And then you can also do additional, more private activities if you'd like. So yeah, here's a couple of pictures of it. So you can see this beautiful suite that just looks directly out to Uluru. Luxury accommodation aside from this property is a little bit hard to come by. There is, in fact, accommodation overall is hard to come by in this area. There's only about 4 or 5 places to stay. The other luxury property in this area is called Sails in the Desert. It's not at this level, and it's amongst the village there, whereas this one's out on its own. And so around this area, I mean, really one of the reasons you go to Uluru is for the Indigenous culture. So we've got contacts who are we call them the traditional owners. So their family have been part of this area for generations upon generations upon generations. So we'll send your clients out with one of those family members. Sometimes their English is not that great. So if you have clients whose English is not that great, then what we might do is get an interpreter for you, because some of these Indigenous people, English is only their 2nd or 3rd or 4th language. They often at home will speak their own Indigenous languages. The other thing here is, this is called Katajuta. This is also called the Olgas. It used to be called the Olgas. So this is quite close to Uluru and equally spectacular. So in terms of sort of what you would do around this area, you would probably do a walk or a cycle around Uluru, and then also a walk at Katajuta. You can have dinner under the stars. We can arrange opera in the outback. We can arrange to go out with an artist and go out to an art community and buy some Indigenous art. So really the world is your oyster. I personally think it's very important to try and understand Australia's Indigenous culture, and this is one of the good places to do it. You've also got this rocky thing called Mount Connor. Now, Mount Connor is different to Uluru, but kind of looks the same. And what we can do is, if your clients are going from A to B, we can organise to fly them in a helicopter, land them on top of that rock, and have a beautiful lunch up there. And that's, you know, that's a really special experience. It's on a private property, so we do have permission to land up there. We do not have permission to go onto the top of Uluru. So this, you might want to do this if you're going to a place called Kings Canyon, which is another place in the area that's worth visiting, where you can do a beautiful walk, or perhaps they're on their way to an Indigenous community to learn about the art. And then if you've got families or people who just love wildlife like me, we can organise for your clients to go and visit this guy, whose real name, I don't even know his real name. He goes by the name of Brolga, which is a bird, but people also call him Kangaroo Dundee. He's got a TV show. So he's been rescuing kangaroos for maybe 10 or 20 years. Basically in Australia, we've got cars and roads and kangaroos, and they don't match. So sometimes the cars hit the kangaroos, and what happens is the kangaroo mother might die, but they've got a little baby in the pouch, and so this man will go along and he'll check and rescue the babies and then bring them up and then get them ready to go back into the wild. So he'll hand feed them and, yeah, just care for them. So your clients can go there and, you know, learn about the work he does, and also perhaps hand feed a little baby kangaroo, which is really cute. Okay, so now we're heading north pretty much straight north to the area we call the top end. About where this dot is. So if you know Australian states, you'll know that this here is called the Northern Territory. But really, because of the climate, we divide it up into two areas. We call the top bit the top end, and we call the middle bit down, or the lower bit down here, sort of Central Australia. And really, they're completely different climates. So whilst it's dry and deserty where Uluru is, you've got the monsoonal area up here. So 6 months of the year it's raining, 6 months of the year it doesn't rain a drop, and that's when it's perfect for your clients. And that's generally end of April to around about November, just depends on the seasons. The capital city here is Darwin. So if you're flying in from Asia, it's actually a really good entry point. So you don't have to start down in Sydney. So you could start here and do a loop that way, and that would save a lot of wasted time. You could even just pop into this area and have a week-long adventure and experience and feel like you're almost in Africa, and then go back. It doesn't have to be a really long trip here in Australia. So it's about a 2 and a bit hour flight north up to Darwin. And then this property here that I'm about to show you, it's another 30-minute private charter. Very well worth doing, because you just get a fabulous view of the area and really understand how that monsoonal system creates these amazing rivers and floodplains. And so this is Bamaroo Plains. It's another luxury lodge of Australia. So it's only open around about April till really September. It starts getting a bit too dry. You've got about 10 of these safari bungalows and then a main lodge. So only about 20 guests at a time maximum. And then they've got these airboats that take people around on safaris. This is one of my absolute favourite properties in Australia. I've taken agents there a couple of times now, and they all just go, wow, this is amazing. So what you've got is these safari bungalows, and they're mesh on 3 sides. So you can kind of see how you can just look out, and you just really feel like you're sleeping amongst all the wildlife. During the day you can't really see in. At night time you can a little bit, but generally people aren't going in front of the bungalows, and they're kind of protected on either side. They've got trees, so they are very private, and they're quite far spaced quite far apart. So basically you go to bed in one of these. They're very comfortable beds, and you just wake up with the sound of the birds. You might have these buffaloes up against the side of your bungalow. So last time I was there, I walked into my bungalow, and there were about three buffaloes all in the shade of my bungalow, and they got a fright when I came in, and then they went wandering off. But they can't hurt you, so they're perfectly fine. You might also see wallabies hopping around. The noises of the birds, it's almost deafening. There's so many birds there. It's really beautiful. So the reason you come to this area really is for the wildlife and the wilderness. So the creator of this luxury lodge had spent a lot of time in Africa, and he really wanted to bring that kind of African wildlife experience to Australia, because nothing really existed here. So yeah, you can liken it to going to the Okavango Delta, because it's on this floodplain. You go out in these airboats, you'll meander through sort of paperbark forests that are sort of surrounded by water. You drive through all the birds, and all the birds will start taking off. You'll go looking for crocodiles. You'll do these, safari drives in the evening and have a sundowner. The guides here are some of the best you'll find in Australia, some of the best training programs. And really, it's a very easy kind of African style experience, but, in Australia. In the months of February, March, and into April, Instead of acting as a luxury lodge, it turns into what we call a fishing lodge. So with the wet season, we have a time where it's kind of called the runoff. So it stopped raining and all the flooding is starting to subside. And this is when this fish here, I don't know if that's a barramundi, but there's a fish called the barramundi, which this region is very famous for. And you can go out on the airboats and you'll go fishing for about 8 hours at a day. It's not my style of, I don't like fishing, but for some people they love fishing, and they're out there all day long and they're just catching. There's just so many fish. It's catch and release, so they do put the fish back, but yeah, it's an option if you've got clients who like fishing. And then from Bamaroo, there's lots of touring options, and Bamaroo offers day trips to Arnhem Land and Kakadu. So these are very important kind of Indigenous areas. If your clients wanted to do longer trips to these areas, we can certainly also accommodate that. We've got some great guides that can do longer touring, but if they just wanted to pop in and spend one day experiencing these regions, we can also accommodate that. So you can see this kind of scenery here and some of this artwork here. Really, the reason I think these areas are so special is because you've got very few people that are there. So pretty much most of the time you will have kilometres upon kilometres of this area all to yourself. There's 0.16 people per square kilometre, whereas in, I think, Mumbai, it's something like 25,000 people per square kilometre, and even Paris, I think, is 23,000 per square kilometre. So post-COVID, you know, if your clients are a little bit concerned about health, this is the perfect area to come because there will be no people here. Arnhem Land itself, as a bit of background, is a parcel of land, a large parcel of land that the Australian government has left to the Aborigines for themselves. And so as a white person, I need a permit to go into that area. For your clients, our guides can get access to those permits and we can get your clients into them, but it is a very special area for them. So Kakadu, why do you go to Kakadu? These swimming holes are a perfect example of why you go to Kakadu. So you've got all this beautiful scenery, strong Indigenous culture, and then you've got these lovely swim holes that you can hike to, so take a bit of a walk, and you can swim in. Now, I mentioned crocodiles earlier in the monsoon season. So what happens with Kakadu, because it has so many different swim holes, after the wet season, after the runoff, as the water is receding, crocodiles have swum all over the place and end up in different kind of swimming holes. They just get stuck because then there's no water for them to swim away, apart from that one place. So the national parks, they do these tests over a period of about 3 weeks to check that there's no crocodiles in them. So then they say they're safe and they open them up to the public. And that's another reason, you know, why you don't want to come in the wrong season, because, you know, you're not able to swim in these amazing places. So by the time sort of April, May hits, they're all open, they're all fine, they're all safe, and yeah, absolutely a beautiful experience to swim in any of these. Arnhem Land, I touched on that with the so needing a permit to get in there. It is easy enough to pop in for 1 day and do a tour of this area called Injalak Hill, and it looks a bit like this, but this is it. And what you find here is like just layers upon layers upon layers of Indigenous rock art that just goes back 10,000 years perhaps. Really interesting when you've got a good Indigenous guide who's translating or telling you the meaning behind these artworks. And you can also go and do a tour and meet some of the artists and watch them creating in the process, and then purchase that art. And next slide. So then this is one of my favorite experiences, and it's just out of Darwin and it only takes 4 hours. So from Darwin Airport, this is really good for people who are short on time, or as I said, if they perhaps want to just pop down from Asia, spend a week in this top end and don't want to travel too far. This is an amazing experience without really having to go very far at all. So you take off from Darwin Airport, and then 20 minutes later, you are landing on this absolutely stunning lagoon. And it feels like you're in parts of Africa or Borneo. You've got birds tweeting in the air. So you land on the lagoon, and then you can see in this bottom left-hand corner here, there's a bit of a pontoon. And so you pull up at the pontoon, and they've got a cooked breakfast waiting for you, so your guests can have some beautiful food. And then they'll hop into an airboat, and they'll go out and they'll go along the lagoon and then down the little tributaries that are on either side, and they'll go looking for crocodiles and on a bit of a safari. So spend an hour or so out there on safari. They'll come back again, and then a helicopter will be waiting, and they go up in the helicopter and they can see the whole region from the helicopter, which is a different perspective to seeing it from a plane. And you can see the kangaroos hopping away, and you can kind of follow them, and then you can see these ant hills, and really bit of fun. And then come back and then hop in the plane and then take off on the river, and you're back in Darwin by 11 o'clock in the morning. So a really good one for people short on time, and yeah, up there with one of my favorite experiences in Australia. And another one, this is the Tiwi Islands. So this can be done as a day trip as well from Darwin. The Tiwi Islands are I think it's about a 2-hour boat ride, or you could take a seaplane, a fixed wing, a helicopter, and head there that way, depending on the budget. So this area, the Indigenous culture has a slightly different art form there. It's quite unique. They do ceramics, and they do these interesting sculptures. So again, if your clients are interested in Indigenous art, we can send them out with someone who really knows their stuff and knows the culture to see the Tiwi Islands. They are a bit of a they're getting a bit fashionable here with Australians, and on a lot of people's bucket list to get to the Tiwi Islands. There is accommodation out there. It's not luxury though, so we would probably just recommend to go out for a day trip instead. Okay, so now we're going to go over to Queensland. So you would have heard of Cairns, I'm sure, which is kind of the hub of this area. And really, it's all about the Daintree rainforest and the Great Barrier Reef. So we're over here now. It's about a 2-hour flight, 2-hour, 20 minutes maybe. And so this region as well is kind of in that monsoonal system. So it does have a wet and a dry season, but it is a lot more accessible all year round. So whereas the top end, a lot of the tourism suppliers shut down, here they're pretty much year round. You can do most stuff. The main difference would be you can't really swim at the beaches after about October right through till maybe April, primarily because of poisonous jellyfish. So you either have to put on a stinger suit or just swim in a swimming pool. I personally would just swim in a swimming pool. I don't trust the special suits. So it can get very hot around Christmas time, very humid, quite stifling. I personally only prefer to go there from about April to October at the latest. And so you've got the Daintree rainforest. So the Daintree rainforest is older than the Amazon. So it's really, really biodiverse, really interesting. If you go out with a guide who really knows their stuff, you'll get so much more out of the area. They can teach you about all the plants and vegetation and wildlife that lives there. And in the middle of the Daintree rainforest, you've got a luxury lodge of Australia called Silky Oaks. So it was purchased by a new owner early last year, and is set to open in April next year. So I haven't seen it since it's it's going through this renovation process. I have stayed there before that. And you've got these 40 kind of retreats. Some are like this one here, so they're right up on stilts, and so you feel like you're in a tree house. Others are sort of closer to, I guess, land. And it was absolutely beautiful then, so I can't wait to see what they're doing with it now. I think it's going to be even better, which will be really exciting. So you've got this kind of lagoon thing here, so you can go kayaking, and there's a picture of it. You can do lots of walks, so they've got lots of self-guided trails where you can just take yourself off on a walk, take a helicopter up to the top of a waterfall and have lunch there. And then another lovely activity just down the road is this river drift snorkeling, which this is me here, which I did a couple of years ago. And that's a different type of snorkeling because you're in a river. So, you know, you see things like little turtles and brown fish, and you snorkel sort of under trees that have fallen over in the river. And you spend the first sort of half an hour just meandering very, very slowly. It's, you know, children can do it. There were some children doing it when I did it. And then you spend the second half lying on these floaty things, and you're just looking up at the sort of the canopy of the rainforest that's kind of dripping over the river. Really, really, really relaxing. You just come out of it feeling just, yeah, kind of very zen. So yeah, I have this up. I always tell people they should do this when they go up to that to this region. We've got more Indigenous experiences here. This is one of our favourite guides, a guy called Juan Walker. So he'll take your clients out and teach them how to sort of do traditional things like spear a mud crab. He'll teach you about bush foods. He'll talk about his family and his culture. Really, it's really good for families and adults alone. And he'll take it, depending on what you're interested in, he'll tailor the experience for your clients. Excuse me. Might just have some water. And if you've got clients interested in conservation, so this strange bird here, this is called a cassowary. Very prehistoric when you see it in real life. It's endangered. And then these little creatures here, they're called northern spotted quolls. Most Australians wouldn't even know what they look like or that they even existed. They're that endangered, but they used to be all over the Australian mainland. So it's conservation projects to save these little creatures. What makes them really unique is that they are carnivores. So unlike a kangaroo, these ones eat meat. So they're quite unique. They're very cute. They're kind of like little pussycats. So we've got some great researchers and conservationists that we can send your clients out with. Typically, they would go the tour would probably start 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then go into the night, because really a lot of Australian animals are nocturnal, so you're more likely to see them in the nighttime than you are in the day. At least they're going to be more active. So you'd go out in the afternoon, you'd see the sights, so you'd get to see how beautiful it is in the daytime, but then you'd get this sort of wildlife nighttime experience as well. And then another conservation side of things, this guy's really interesting. His name's Alan Carl, and he has been traveling the world for 40 years or so, collecting basically tropical fruits from all sorts of rainforests everywhere around the world, really trying to preserve them and save them as a species. So he brings them back to his property, which used to be a cattle station. So it just used to be all grass and cows. And now it's this lush kind of rainforest orchard that he's created. And he's absolutely fascinating. He's hosted dignitaries and presidents, and you can just either, you know, go and spend some time with him and learn about what he's doing, or they have this this 4-bedroom house here too, which you can rent out, and we can get catered in and stuff. So yeah, again, just something a little bit different to the usual kind of activities that people do up in this region. And again, on conservation side, this is for clients if they've got really, you know, nice big budgets. this man here, his name's Andy Ridley, and he has started a foundation called Citizens of the Great Barrier Reef. It's all about learning about the Great Barrier Reef, being conscious of our actions. So, for example, not using straws, you know, not using too much plastic to preserve our Great Barrier Reef. So we can organise a super yacht with some you know, specialist marine biologists, depending on what your client, what sort of marine animal your clients are into, and then also out with Andy Ridley and go out on a 4-day experience on the Great Barrier Reef. So, you know, whether it be minke whales, which is this creature here, it could be turtles, it could be sharks, whatever animal your clients are interested in, we can arrange it around that, and we'd know what time of year would be best to send your clients there. So that's just a little bit of a special experience as well. And then if your clients are going to the Great Barrier Reef, I personally always insist that they have to fly over it somehow, because seeing the reef from up above, and you can see the sort of scenery you get, it's just incredible. You can see all the different little reefs. You can see where the reefs drop off, and there's like this dark blue where it gets really, really deep. You can relate it to when Captain Cook, I'm not sure if you know the story of Captain Cook, who in parenthesis discovered Australia for the British. He got stuck here, so his ship hit the reef and started taking on water, and then they'd find a way out, and then they'd hit another reef. And so there's all sorts of stories about him trying to navigate through here when he'd never even been here. And when you're seeing it from above, you really understand how difficult it would have been for him to get through. And so he actually went to this place here called Lizard Island. Again, it's another luxury lodge of Australia. He named it Lizard Island because he saw some lizards there. But he sailed the ship there, and they had to do some repairs, and he climbed up to the top of one of the big hills there just so he could work out how to get out of the reef system, because he was just stuck, and they thought they might never get home. So Lizard Island, to get there, it's one of the northernmost islands on the Great Barrier Reef, and to get there, it's about a 1-hour flight from Cairns. And essentially, Lizard Island's a national park, and then it's got this resort here, and there's nothing really else. There's a research station which you can do as part of your stay here. It's a dry island, so whereas, you know, most people think of they think of a tropical island with beautiful palm trees and whatnot. This is a lot drier, but in no way is it less beautiful. In fact, in some ways it's more beautiful, because it's just a bit different to every other island. You've got absolutely beautiful white sand, this absolutely gorgeous blue water, and you just, when your plane lands there and you step off the plane, you just kind of go, I'm so relaxed. You just instantly relax. So they've got 40 suites dotted around, some depending on budget, and then also your client's kind of fitness level and accessibility. We can advise on which suite that they should have. Some go right out onto the beach. Some have amazing sunset views. Some have plunge pools. Some don't. So there's a nice little mixture. Some are sort of good for families. I personally don't think it matters really which one you're in, because they're all pretty amazing. It's all inclusive as well, including activities, which apart from, I think, maybe scuba diving. But what I love about it is you can take out these dinghies. So essentially the island has 24 white sand beaches all around it, which are great for snorkeling. And so you can just tell them, I'd like some champagne and some canapes in a picnic box to take with me to go out on the dinghy. And so they'll pack that all up for you, and they teach you how to drive it. It probably takes 5 or 10 minutes of instruction, and then off you go on your own, and you can go to any of the white sand beaches. And some of them are known for where the turtles swim, so you can pull up at that beach and get your snorkel on, and literally straight away you start seeing turtles and turtles and turtles. or you could just find one beach and sit there under the shade and enjoy it. It's I can't wait to go back and do that again. I wish I had more time. You've also obviously got the scuba diving and the snorkeling. When I went there, the visibility in the water was, you know, some of the best I'd ever seen. All these big giant clams were there, so really fun to snorkel over them. We went out on a guided snorkel, but obviously you can also go out scuba diving as well. And then just a couple of new ones. I'm almost done. So obviously, you know, Cairns is known for the Daintree and the Great Barrier Reef. What it's not known for really is any kind of tourism product from inland from Cairns. But just in the last couple of years, some new ones have developed. This one is called Mount Mulligan. It is also a luxury lodge of Australia, so it's also all-inclusive. And it's only a 30-minute helicopter inland from Cairns, or about a 2.5-hour drive. But I mean, you look at it, you feel like you're in the middle of the outback. You've got this incredible escarpment. You're on a really large property that at times was a copper mine and a cattle station. So you can learn all about that, that history of the place. Every villa, there's only 8 villas, and they're family friendly. So that's another really good selling point of this. But they all get their own quad bike, so you can, you know, just go around the property and do your own thing that way. And yeah, really fun and new option. And so this is good if you wanted to tie in some outback with some Daintree, with some Great Barrier Reef, without having to travel too far. And in fact, you could just fly straight into Cairns, and then you've got everything at your doorstep, and you could spend a couple of weeks or 10 days or only a week getting a taste for all. Yeah, there's just some shots of it. So yeah, you get one of these little quad bikes all to yourself, and you can take yourself off for a picnic somewhere. And then Kinrara Expeditions is also a new one that's just popped up in the last year or two. And so this is a more in some ways more organized experience. So it's a 4-night, 5-day I guess expedition safari. So they'll pick you up in Cairns. It's about a 4-hour drive inland and a bit south. And then you come to what was once a volcano. So it's an extinct volcano. And really now it's a tropical oasis, because as you can see from this, it's kind of all dry, but then just nearby you get this beautiful wetland scene. So you're in tented accommodation. It's sort of family hosted, so the family that run it are very much involved, and it's family friendly, so it's a good one for families. And so really what happens is you arrive and they have a chat to you and find out what you're interested in. You know, do you want to do kayaking? Are you interested in wildlife? Are you interested in birds? Is there something else? Do you just want to relax and not do anything? And then they will tailor your next few days based on what you're interested in. So it really is different for everyone that stays there. And then just quickly, lucky last two, a couple more Great Barrier Reef experiences. So you would have heard of the Whitsunday Islands, which are actually a fair bit further south than where Cairns is, but still on the Great Barrier Reef. So this is called Heart Reef Pontoon, or Heart Island Reef Experience. So this is only available to guests of Hamilton Island. And basically it's a helicopter out here with up to 6 guests, and they land on here. Underneath here there's a boat, and you can see the kind of lounge area here. And so you spend about 90 minutes here. And so basically the boat will take you out. You can see where the pontoon is up here. The boat will take you around, and guests can snorkel around this iconic Heart Island. Spend some time on the reef. There's a glass, I think the boat has a glass bottom, so you can see the Great Barrier Reef without having to get into the water, and then helicopter back again. So that's one option. And then the other option is the Reef Suites. So there's only 2 of them. This is only less than a year old now. And essentially what you do is you leave either the mainland or an island like Hamilton Island, which is one of the larger islands in this kind of group of islands. And you take a cruise out through the Whitsundays and over the Great Barrier Reef out to this big pontoon, and you can spend the day snorkeling or scuba diving. And then most of the passengers will return home in the afternoon cruise, but the people who are staying here will stay overnight, and they'll basically have the whole pontoon to themselves. So you've got two of these reef suites that are underwater, so you can see the fish as you go to sleep. And then they also have some kind of, they're almost like little mini tents. We call them swags here in Australia. So you can also sleep on the top of it and just stare out. So there's probably, I think, about 5 or 10 of them. So you're probably only looking at about 20 guests maximum that are staying overnight. But you know, you're fed some really nice food, and your wine's included as well. And so that's me. So thank you. And I hope you found that useful. If you want to put your microphones on and ask me any questions, you're more than welcome.
Thank you, Nicola. Thanks so much for that. That's really insightful. Guys, if you have any questions regarding the experiences or activities, or even the destinations, I'm sure Nicola here has a lot of very informative details for us.
Yeah, has anyone got any questions? Or you can always email me anyway. Nope.
Nope. Okay.
Right. Okay. Thank you for taking the time, and yeah, we look forward to being able to welcome your guests, hopefully when the borders come down soon.
Yes, can't wait.
Yeah, me neither. All right, well, have a good day.
Okay, you too. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.